Uyghur elinin oğlu sen, Uyghur üçün can bergen, milletke başını sungan, atalgan kulluk insan. Satmadın şerefimni, baylık üçün cinini, süydün sen milletimni, Uyghur elinin oğlu. Dostqa xizmetni kılar, dostlar üçün kan töker. Yerdem kirek bolsa, oxtek uçar yinınğa. Emmətəmnin qeymida, gece gündüz davağa. Uygurumның ümidi, xalqımның bir palvanı. O alemde kalmadı, insan bilmegen seni. Korkmay çıktın düşmenni, Uygur elinin batırı. Uygur elinin batırı, Uygur elinin oğlu.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Dear brothers and sisters, welcome to a special episode of Arslan Live. I have a very special guest with me today. We have Miss Jewher Ilham. As you all know, you may have heard of her. She is an author and Uyghur human rights advocate and the daughter of Uyghur economist Ilham Tohti, an internationally recognized moderate voice dedicated to bridging the gap between the Uyghur people and the Han Chinese, who was sentenced to life for practicing free speech. She has graduated from Indiana University and works at the Workers Rights Consortium on the forced labor issue in China. She has become a powerful advocate, a powerful voice for her father and the Uyghur people. So without further ado, I'd like everyone to welcome to Arslan Live, Sister Jewher Ilham. How are you today, sister?
I'm doing good. How are you, Arslanka?
I'm very good. Yaxshi tudum. So today, before we get into the work you do, obviously you are known as, predominantly you are known as the daughter of the famous Ilham Tohti. Could you, just at the beginning of our show, talk to us about the latest? Have you had any information about his health, his whereabouts, how he's doing? And then we can sort of get onto the work that you've been doing when we're talking about Uyghur forced labor and how we can boycott made in China.
Sure, glad to do that. The last time I heard any news of my father, any news of, updates of my father's condition, I learned that he was shackled, beaten, denied food twice, each time for 10 days, and he had lost 40 pounds. His hair turned gray, but as I expected, how he would just how, according to my knowledge of him, as I expected, he remained strong, even though he was locked up in prison for many, many years, and he went through all this. But spiritually, he was very strong, though physically, he got a lot weaker. But all these information were stopped being updated since 2017. None of my family members were able to visit him since 2017. As a lot of you know, that's when the beginning of the re-education camps and concentration camps. And just like many other Uyghur families out there, I don't know if my father is still locked up in the same prison, or if he has been transferred to a camp or transferred to a factory, or if he is even alive.
I'm sure, I hopefully you get some news quick, and I'm sure, we all hope for his good health, and hopefully we get some news. But today, the main aim why I invited you today was to talk about this Uyghur human rights, this forced labor act that is hopefully going to be passed in the US, and obviously the work that you do at the Workers Rights Consortium. Could you talk to us about your role at your organization?
First of all, I'd like to make a small introduction on Workers Rights Consortium. So the Workers Rights Consortium is an independent independent labor rights monitoring nonprofit organization in the U.S., and we have very small staff community in the U.S. We only have 9 staff members, but we have been covering issues in Bangladesh, in India, and my role is to focus on the forced labor issue in China. And our organization, we work on gathering evidence, and we do research on, and we also talk to workers from all across the world to learn their experiences and how their rights, their workers' rights have been abused by their employers, or in the case of China, by the local authorities, or and how it's been how a lot of the Uyghur workers can no longer work in the job force that they want to be working at, and some of how they are forced to work without even minimum wage. A lot of them are forced to work without being allowed to go home. So that's what my job focuses on, and we. The Workers Rights Consortium is one of the founding and leading member of the coalition to end Uyghur forced labor. I'd like to talk a little bit more about the coalition later, but just a short introduction on the coalition. The coalition is a very diverse group. We are not a US-based group. We are, as I said, it's very diverse. We have launched the call to action last summer in July. And our call to action was endorsed by over 400 organizations from 44 countries across the world. So we are very diverse. And the endorsers include investor groups, student groups, Uyghur solidarity groups, civil society groups, and even fashion brands. So we have successfully had over 11 brands committed to the call to action, which is a full commitment to exit the Uyghur region at every level of their supply chain. And that's what we have been working on, the coalition and the Workers Rights Consortium, which we engage with international brands, international companies, especially apparel companies around the world, to ask them to exit the Uyghur region in every level of their supply chain. When we say every level, we mean that even if they're located outside of the Uyghur region, as long as they're teeny bitty of connection to the Uyghur region, materials produced in the Uyghur region, then we would like them to cut it off through their supply chain.
How realistic is that? I mean, for example, we talk about, say, companies boycotting, China, or even everyday consumers boycotting China. I mean, do these things actually work? I mean, we're told to boycott products from certain countries from time to time. What are you or your organization doing to make this as much of a successful campaign as possible?
So first of all, we're not talking about boycotting. When people are listening, when people hear the word boycott, all they are thinking is completely boycott any production that is coming out of this country, which is, in this case, is unrealistic because, as many of you know, 84% of the cotton production of China is from the Uyghur region, and that is 22% of the global cotton production. It is already very difficult just when we're simply talking about cutting off cotton production, which so-called Xinjiang cotton. That is already difficult, but it's feasible. As I mentioned, we already have 11 brands, international brands. And when we say international brands, I'm talking about big corporations, like big brands that are over millions or billions of revenues, which includes Marks and Spencer, Island Fisher, Reformation ASOS, that is not only based in the US, but also in UK and Europe as well. So we also have smaller companies that also endorse, but now we're just listing most of the major brands. It is very difficult. So we give brands 365 days to slowly pull out. Well, for us, it's slow, of course, because we don't want our Uyghur brothers and sisters to suffer for one day or even one more minute. But for brands, 365 days, it's a fairly short amount of time for them to do that, because a lot of companies have been building up their factories and supply chains and manufacturers since early 2000, and that is like decades of time, and it's usually very difficult to cut off their connections when we say just a day or a year, but it is feasible. And we have already been engaging with brands that have committed to us we would ask them to update us and try to be fully transparent with how they're how active they are on pulling out of their pulling out through the Uyghur region through their supply chains. So it is difficult, but it is feasible. And now we have been working on building up this list of brands that choose to do the right thing. We have a bunch of brands that are choosing to be on the wrong side of the history. Just yesterday, many of you may have heard of the Jewher Ilham report that was released by Dr. Laura Murphy, Laundering Cotton. The report name is Laundering Cotton. And in this report, there are 53 manufacturers were exposed. And that links to over 103 international brands. It's in this report, it can provide link-to-link evidence on how even though with the WRO, the withhold release order on cotton, those Xinjiang cotton can still be ended up coming in, importing into the U.S. and ended up in what is it called? Clothing racks, and still in your shopping mall, and happen to be in your closet in a month or two, maybe during Black Friday, upcoming Black Friday that is happening next week. So it is very difficult to do that, but it is feasible, and it takes time, and it takes work, and it takes unified actions. It's not going to be the complicity, the brand's complicity in Uyghur forced labor. It's not going to be done by me, ended by me, or by you. It's going to be ended by all of our efforts together.
I mean, what are the companies' reactions when you first engage with them? Do they sort of know what's happening, or is it just like, oh, we had no idea what's going on? And obviously they do their own sort of investigation. How does that play out? Are you able to talk about that?
Sure, I can touch on a little bit about that. So in the beginning, brands can say that they didn't know. But at this juncture, there is no brand, especially publicly listed brands. There's no brand that they can no longer claim that they didn't know. If they didn't know, that's because they chose to not know. There are when we're talking about ETI or AFL-CIO, all these labor rights monitoring huge agents, world-renowned agencies, or BCI, they have all publicly announced that how Uyghur forced labor is dangerous to the apparel industry, and how the so-called Xinjiang cotton is highly tainted by forced labor. So as long as this brand has any cotton product in their selling list, then there's no way that they don't know. There is no absolute way. If they claim they don't know, they're either lying or they chose to not know.
I understand that you guys have a list of companies that we should avoid, and I'm sure you have a list of companies that have jumped on board with you guys. I understand that you wanted to share some information about how to reach out to you guys and how to avoid some of these brands.
Yes. Is it okay if I share my screen?
Sure, yeah.
And please excuse my squeaky voice. I got sick over the weekend during the Biden-Xi meeting press conference. It was really cold that day. Share screen. Can you see my screen right now?
It'll pop up. There we go.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now you are looking at our homepage for the Coalition to End Uyghur Forced Labor. So as I said, we're a very broad coalition. I'm just going to do a more in-depth introduction to the coalition. So for here, you can see a little bit of general information on, as I mentioned, 22% of the global cotton production is from the Uyghur region, and that is 1 out of 5 cotton garments in the global market that are tainted by forced labor. And 45 besides apparel industry, solar industry is another sector that is highly at risk for Uyghur forced labor, because 45% of the world solar grade polysilicon comes from the Uyghur region. And not only the solar industry and apparel industry are involved in Uyghur forced labor. At this juncture, any sector could be involved at Uyghur forced labor. For instance, the food industry, let's say tomatoes, and also wigs. Well, a lot of you may have seen the stories. There were 13 tons of hair products. Wigs were confiscated by the U.S. CBP, by the Custom Border Patrol, and these were coming out of Uyghur women. So any sectors could be highly at risk. So as this is when I talked about how diverse we are by different groups. So these are all the 400 endorsers we have. You can see it's a long list, and I'm very grateful for that. And for anyone who's watching this, if you're an organization, a church, or any or investor, or any company, and when you're curious about the call to action, you may read it through here, through this button, or click through call to action. You will be able to read our full text for the call to action, and which is what we need the brands to follow, and a little bit introduction. So these are the texts. These are the texts. And even if you're an individual and not an organizational like a director or manager, it doesn't matter. You can still endorse the call to action by clicking to this link, endorse the call to action. It will take you to this group. So you can see, even if you're from a university, if you own a student club, that is also okay. You can still endorse us. And then when people are interested in learning about this is the exciting parts, brands, you can go to here, and then you go to apparel and textiles. And here, voila, here comes a list of brands. This is the list of brands that have publicly, I'm emphasizing, the list is longer than this, but the brands have committed are longer than this. But the ones that we listed are some of the bigger brands, and the ones that have publicly committed. We also have some privately committed brands as well. When we're saying privately committed, we're still monitoring their actions on how they're committed to the call to action. And these are the list of brands that have yet committed to the call to action. And we have reached out to these. They either refused to commit or did not have meaningful response. So you know where to shop from, and we're not. And also for people who are willing to learn more about the cause and say, oh, I don't know too much about the issue. How can I get a more collected, informative, like where can I get those sources? So we have this, so these are the coalition's statements and release. With this release, as you can see, was published yesterday. It's on the Sheffield Harlem report. So you'll be able to have link to the report. And also you will be able to read all the news articles that were selected by the coalition members through this link. It's dated, and it has 12 different languages involved. So it doesn't matter which country you're from, you'll always find your own language here. And here, with related actions, you will be able to find any action items that are related to helping the Uyghur forced labor issue. For instance, here's a petition to tell Hugo Boss to remove Uyghur forced labor from its supply chain. It will directly link you to our partner organization, which is a coalition member, on their petition. And it will be directly sent to Hugo Boss CEO's inbox. And as you can see, it's over 168,000 signatures. And also you will be able to see this, our dear friend Louis Shin's fashion show, where she made the entire fashion show dedicated to speaking up on the Uyghur cause, to ask for end all genocide and free Uyghurs. You'll also be able to watch the Uyghur Tribunal through the September one and June one through here. In order to support the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, you can write to your local government representatives through these email templates, which is extremely helpful especially when English is not your first language, or if you don't have time to draft out a whole long email. You can just simply, by entering your name, your email address, and your house address or your office address, and then you will be able to send a letter to your local government representatives. And this is by our partner organization, No Business with Genocide. So basically, this website has everything that you might need on helping the Uyghurs. And the address of this website is www.enduygurforcelabor.org. And make sure the labor is it's spelled in a British way, LABOUR, not the LABOR.
So make sure it's spelled the proper way.
Yes.
And obviously they can donate. Do you guys accept donations as well?
We don't. So every organization had been volunteering on this.
Right,
so
right.
None of us, we have accepted donations on this, nor fundraised for our work. Every partnering organizations have been pulling up 1 to 5 people from their team to work on this, contributing a few hours of their time in the week to work on this. So entire organization is not based on donations at the moment. We might in the future, but at the moment we don't know. We have been just relying on each individual or partner organization's own organizational money. For instance, one organization might contribute in donating to hosting an event. The other one will be donating to another event. This one will print a poster, that one. So it's mostly volunteer based. And that's also indicates how much we care about this cause, that we all have been contributing our time and our heart into this cause.
I mean, obviously the end goal here is to close the labor camps, the concentration camps, and for people to leave these prisons. Have there been any repercussions? I mean, you guys were sort of naming and shaming Hugo Boss and perhaps other brands as well. Have there been any repercussions from these companies or even the CCP themselves to the work that you guys do?
Yeah, the Chinese government, obviously, the Global Times, that is state-backed media, had written one article attacking our organization, Workers Rights Consortium, and saying that we take that we're basically U.S. propaganda or whatever. One thing that I wanted to clarify is that our organization was specifically a lot of times avoid working with the U.S. government in order to make sure that we don't, that we're too biased. We try not to influence. We try not to not involve. We try to not involved in government work. So the WRC, we also tried. We are not the top organization from the coalition that works on the bill. Through the coalition, we have other organizations that are that engage with the U.S. government more on the UFLPA, the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act. The most, so much more than the WRC. And WRC, we mainly focus on providing research and evidence and engaging with workers. That's where our expertise are at.
So what's the future now? So is it just to continue to gather more organizations, create this coalition, strengthen it?
Yeah, as I mentioned, that because we're mostly volunteer-based organizations, so the more organizations we have, the stronger we are. The more capacity we'll be able to find for different types of work. We have different groups that work on different specific issue. For instance, we have different groups working on solar, some are working on apparel, some are working on Olympics. So having groups or organizations joining, or even individuals joining with different expertise, is highly appreciated and valued. So whoever is watching this, if you have expertise in any of these, or even graphic designs, we need them because it's costly to hire one. And so if anyone is willing to contribute to our work, please, unfortunately it will likely be unpaid, but it's for a greater cause, and we're all in this together. So if you're willing to contribute to our cause, please contact us at contact@enduyghurforcedlabor.org. Somebody will direct you to the right people.
Well, you guys heard it here. Make sure, if you guys want to help out, visit enduyghurforcedlabor.org and contact this group. You guys can obviously DM Jewher Ilham on Twitter, Instagram. I didn't ask your permission. I just said it, so I hope that's okay.
It's all right.
Yeah, especially if there are people willing to help. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention that I didn't quite ask, and then we can slowly close out the show?
So I really just wish if there are more people can pay attention to the coalition website, and it provides basically most of the things you need to learn about what is happening in the Uyghur region to the Uyghur people, and it really and the coalition is one of the most organizations or coalitions that has the most expertise in this issue, and that is most diverse. That we do not only have Uyghur groups, Uyghur representatives like UHRP, CF, Campaign for Uyghurs, organizations like this, and not only based in US, but also based in different countries like in Turkey, in UK, and we also have organizations that have never worked on the Uyghur issue. So it's and that could be we have organizations like Jewish World Watch that have worked on different topics, and we're very diverse, and we look forward to having more and more partners to join us to join this cause, and we're looking forward to build the 400 organizations to make it 500 organizations, 600 or 1,000 organizations or individuals to work on this cause, and one day hopefully we will have built the 11 companies endorser list to 100 endorsers, or the entire industry to be the endorsers, and hopefully we will end the Uyghur forced labor issue together.
Thank you so much, Jewher. Obviously, you're a little sick. I saw you in front of the White House. We were there calling on Biden to act upon, his foreign policy. It looks like he has. We'll see whether or not he actually implements it. Hopefully he does. Thank you so much for your time. I hope to have you next time as well. And thank you for everyone watching. Make sure you guys share, like, and subscribe. Get the news out there. Get educated on this very important issue. And until next time, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.